Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Jarbo. Welcome to Milk Carton Mysteries Special Edition Cold Case Saturdays. Today, we're going to be talking about an Elvis impersonator, dead, no one knows who. A young woman found dead in her apartment 32 years ago on New Year's Day. Don't know who did it? Maybe you have the answer. And of course, the troubling tale coming out of Australia of a young couple on Lover's Lane who were gunned down a very, very long time ago. This is something that I think is going to be an interesting topic of conversation to go through as we just take a look at these cases, see what they're talking about. If you don't know what Cold Case Saturday is, or even what Milk Carton Mysteries is, I take a look contemporarily at what's happening right now, at what's happening in the world around us, what stories are being talked about during the week, and I want to bring attention to them. I like talking about cold cases because maybe you know something. Maybe you know someone who knows something, and putting as much effort as we can and light as we can on these subjects is an absolutely great way to try and bring some justice. So without further ado, let's dive right into the first story of the day, and that is the one here of Carolyn Williams. The CPD continues to investigate a 32-year-old cold case. Now, this is what it says. Carolyn Williams was found dead January 1st, 1989. 32 years later, Columbia Police Department is still investigating her murder. The department's Criminal Investigations Division reopened the case during the past year. According to a news release from the department, the division will re-examine evidence from the 1989 investigation using advanced forensic technology that was not available at the time. Now, the Assistant Chief Jeremiah Hunter here says that this is a very difficult thing anytime someone is murdered. The family needs answers about why their loved one's life was ended and will continue to investigate. So this is really all the information that they've put out right now. But at least this article talks about and links back to an old Columbia Tribune article from 2009, where we get a bit more details and more information about the death of Carolyn Williams. Now, here's my beef with this whole situation. My criticism is this terrible black and white photo of her, which is, I don't want to say nondescript, but very difficult to kind of keep in your mind, is the only image that they have, and it's in low quality. This is what I don't get about some of these cases where they go, we're going to be talking about this, we're going to be looking into it again, but they don't re-release information that might help jog the public's memory. So this is from 2009, where it says 20 years after the murder of Carolyn Williams, investigators are hoping DNA evidence and a fresh perspective will bring the killer to justice. Columbia police have had little to go on since Williams was discovered in her Columbia apartment, lying dead in a pool of blood. Detectives found bloodstained clothing in the apartment, according to archives, but DNA testing at the time was not yet a reality for local police. And this is why, over the course of the next couple of years, a lot of these prolific deaths, these killings, are going to be solved through DNA. The more people use 23andMe or Ancestry.com or whatever, the more people are going to end up being discovered because their family members are going to go out there and drop that DNA, and that's going to get a hit. And that's honest to God, it's one of the best parts about this. Now, it does say here that tips have come in over the years, the latest in 2005, but nothing has panned out. So if we take that as being the last time a real tip came in, from right now, that is almost 16 years since something came up in regards to this case. So the detectives, they're looking into it. Now, Columbia College's cold case homicide class, which is an elective course for students pursuing forensic science and criminal justice careers, have actually looked into this case. This is taught by retired Columbia Police Detective Mike Himmel. The class lets students take a crack at unsolved crimes. This past semester, the class took on the Williams case, one of 3 cold homicide cases in Columbia. Can I just say that is awesome? I'm not, look, I talk about this stuff because I find it to be fascinating. A lot of you guys listen to this stuff because you find it to be fascinating. Just imagine sitting in a classroom, an elective course in a college, and being able to get the details and dive in to this case and talk about it and try to use deductive reasoning and critical thinking to be able to solve. That to me sounds like a dream. Like a dream. Can I take one of these classes? This is from 2009, man. Where are we right now with this stuff? Anyway, here's the details on the story. Williams was stabbed multiple times in her home on at her home in 214 Unity Drive on January 2nd, 1989. At the time, the area was plagued with crack cocaine activity, heightened during the New Year's weekend. The murder is thought to have been drug-related, which is one of the reasons why they probably have taken their time trying to solve it. Now, these six students in the past 16 weeks, mining hundreds of reports related to the case, summarizing what they read and picking out and comparing key facts, they've also examined and cross-referenced evidence and created a timeline of events. In the process, students narrowed down a pool of suspects to 6, with 2 that they have considered prime suspects. They're not the same individuals police suspected 20 years ago, but have considered persons of interest over the years. The next step, of course, will be to determine what pieces of evidence to send for DNA testing, and it will take about 4 to 6 months for the results. And this is in 2009, meaning that this cold case, these kids looking into this case, clearly didn't crack it. But we don't know what they found that the authorities are now wanting to go back and look at again. And probably with, like I said, Ancestry.com and 23andMe and those home DNA kits you send off and whatnot, that we're going to see a lot more changes on that front. And I recently got mine back. And when I first did it over, I think 2 years ago or a year ago or something, they had sent me this very generic form. Like they go, you're 99% European white. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but okay. And then they just now, a year later, sent me an updated one, giving me more of a demographic breakdown percentage-wise. So as this technology increases and we get more and more and more into it, more and more of these people, these killers, these people who have committed atrocities are going to end up getting away with a lot of they're not going to get away with it anymore. They think they're safe, but DNA is going to come back and bite them square in the ass. And I do have a feeling we're going to find out that a lot of these people will have already been dead by the time the law catches up with them, which sucks for them, but it should put a little bit of fear in everybody else out there. So let's hope on that one. So let's talk about this case coming out of Australia. This is an old one. This is a 51-year-old cold case coming in from the Daily Telegraph, where I'm not able to get a full look at this article because they're behind a paywall, but I could get this little bit here. So these two people, Alex Rees and Ray Hill, were murdered on Lover's Lane, and their murder still remains New South Wales' oldest cold case. So this is the oldest cold case coming out of New South Wales in Australia. And this is what we know from an article from back in 2015 where they still wanted to talk about it. So beach double murders and unsolved crime of passion. The murder of Alex Rees and Ray Hill is the oldest case to be investigated by the New South Wales Unsolved Homicide Team. So Alex Rees told her friends that she wanted to stay a virgin until she was married. But when a likable young man by the name of Ray Hill came along, she had to change her heart. An interesting way to open the article, but I guess given where they died, that makes a fair amount of sense. Now, on Friday, January 2nd, 1970, was date night for the young couple. So Ray picked up Alex from the nurse's quarters at Royal Newcastle College, or hospital, where she lived, and worked as a student nurse. They went to the drive-in to see It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, but it probably wouldn't have mattered what movie was showing, though, because the couple who'd been dating for 3 months were in the mood for love. So later that night, I mean, they're dead, so it's like I don't want to laugh at it, but I just love the setup here. It's like they went to the drive-in where they didn't even watch the movie. They got hot and heavy. And I used to work at a drive-in for like 10 years, so that is not uncommon, by the way. So then they went out to a popular Lover's Lane. They would have had better luck at the drive-in. Trust me, people don't pay that much attention. Anyway, just before sunrise, the young lovers were found dead in Ray's car. Ray had been shot through the back of the head, Alex taking a bullet between the eyes. Ray was 24 and Alex was just 19. The murder of Alex Rees and Ray Hill was the oldest case to be investigated by the New South Wales Unsolved Homicide Team. So, shot through the back of the head, and she got shot between the eyes. I mean, doesn't that strike you? Because it kind of strikes me as like the opening of the movie Zodiac, where like he shot the people out on Lover's Lane. Like that was an old thing from a long time ago where, that would be the killer out on Lover's Lane. And I don't even think those really exist anymore. And I mean, I know maybe, I don't know your city. I know my city, I don't think has it. But then again, I'm well past that age. So I don't know where the kids go to hook up. But I just, I think it was like, that just feels like it was an ambush where Alex was shot in the back of the head. Guy came up behind him first. And then maybe she screamed and he shot her. I don't quite know. Now, this is what it goes on to say here. Solving a case as old as the Rees and Hill's double murder is about as difficult as it gets, as Detective Chief Inspector John Lehman of the New South Wales Police and Unsolved Homicide Team says. The older the case, the less opportunities we have and the likelihood that we have less physical evidence upon which to apply new forensic techniques. As well as that, witnesses and suspects have passed on, so we've been unable to follow up on any information that they gave police at the time. Well, yeah, and I'm not trying to like poo-poo all over this thing, but it's you're talking 51 years. I'm sure DNA technology is going to be able to maybe identify something at this point, but it feels like it's almost like trying to solve the Zodiac. Yeah, they cracked the code the other day, but that took how many years? 50 years to crack the code almost. So it's insane to think. I don't know. I'm not trying to be pessimistic here. I'm optimistic. Optimistic they'll catch this guy. I'm also pretty positive the dude's probably already dead. Anyway, this is what we know. Alex met Ray, a forklift driver, at the hospital where he had been receiving treatment for a persistent stutter. They hit it off instantly, and within 3 months of dating, the couple started talking about marriage, and it looked like a proposal was imminent. On Friday, January 2nd, 1970, Ray left his home to go and pick her up, as we talked about. So they drove to, after they went to the drive-in, they went to South Newcastle Beach for a little brown chicken brown cow, where they pulled into the parking area on Shortland Esplanade, a popular makeout spot. Between 1:30 and 2 a.m., a man who'd been sleeping off a few drinks in his car was awoken by traffic, so he decided to listen to the radio for a while. Suddenly, he heard 3 shots, 2 fired in succession, and a third fired a second or so later. So, as I said, with Alex being shot in the head, the back of the head, maybe that was the first one, and she was probably the second. 5 minutes later, he drove along Shortland Esplanade, and in the direction from which he'd heard the shots. Inside the parking area near the surf sheds, he saw a white Valiant sedan with its interior light on. About 2 car lengths further along, he saw a blue or gunmetal colored late model Falcon sedan. He didn't see anyone in or outside either of the cars. Without noticing anything overtly suspicious, he drove on. It wasn't until 5:20 in the morning that a young Sydney couple walking past Ray's Valiant made the shocking discovery: Ray and Alex dead in the car, Alex seated, and Ray kneeling on the floor facing her. They both had been shot. Now that is weird. Okay, so my earlier theory kind of was like, they were in the car, but now this makes sense where she was seated in the car and he was kneeling on the floor facing her. Like in the driver's seat or in the passenger seat, was like he on the knees? Was he on the ground facing her, like on his knees? And that's why he was shot in the back of the head. And then she was shot point blank in the head. I don't know. Let's read on. The first police at the scene saw that the top of Alex and Ray's bodies were clothed, but beneath the rug, they were naked from the waist down, with their pants down around their ankles. They believed that the young couple had been having sex at the time they were shot. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. So that would be it. Okay. So like they were in the backseat. This is where it gets a little bit interesting, because like someone saw them, pulled them out while they were doing it, and caught them literally with their pants down. That's unfortunate. The post-mortem found bullet fragments in the head of both Alex and Ray, says Chief Inspector Lehman. It was believed that the shots had probably been fired through the open window of the driver's door. Alex's former boyfriend, Jim, was the first to spring to the investigation's attention because Alex had ended their relationship in October 1969, just 3 months before the murder. So had Jim, in a fit of jealousy, murdered his former girlfriend and the man she planned to marry? He provided his movements on the night, and he gave an alibi. Detectives spoke to everyone who knew Alex and Ray and had canvassed the homes along the beach. They looked closely for known sex offenders and even considered but ruled out the possibility that the double murder was a case of mistaken identity. So without evidence to charge anyone over the murders, Alex, Rees, and Ray Hill, in March of 1971, the coroner handed down an open finding. In its time, the investigation into the murder was one of the most exhaustive the state had ever seen. Yet despite years of digging, to this day, no one has been able to prove who killed them. Now, I think back to movies when I think of this kind of thing. I think back to movies a lot when I see these kind of stories, because we base a lot of, local, like urban legends or horror off of the concept of Lover's Lane. So just based upon that description, what can we ascertain? Well, we can ascertain that they were in the process of coitus. They were having intercourse. They were having sex. And it was their first time, man. That's terrible. And they were, someone had opened fire. So what I can only assume then is they were probably in maybe the back seat, or no, the front seat because of the door. But I don't know if the sedan was a 2-door or a 4. I don't know if they had 4 doors back then. But it's possible they had bench seats. They were doing it on the front of the car, in the front seat of the car. The window was down. He was on top of her on the passenger side. So he was shot in the back of the head. She was shot once. So what it tells me is that it was definitely like either a crime of passion, or I don't think it was premeditated, to be honest with you, but maybe it was, or someone just happened to be waiting for lovers to go out there and do stuff. If it's a lover's lane, you're going to know where the kids are, right? You're going to know where the people are at. This is not uncommon. So I don't know. That's where my mind goes. Maybe you guys have a different thought on this one. Maybe you guys have a different idea, because it's sad. It's tragic. Young couple, the nurse and the stutterer, enjoying each other for the first time. And then that happens. That's just, that's terrible stuff. I hope they're able to crack this. It's been 51 years at this point. Probably not. Again, not to be too pessimistic, but just, again, a realist here. They can look into it. It's going to be one of those stories that might end up being, it might even be a movie of the week somewhere in Australia. I have no idea. But who knows? Maybe through DNA testing, they'll be able to get some kind of concept, some kind of idea, and blow this thing wide open. And I can only hope that is exactly what happened. So let's wrap up today by talking about this case that the Daily Mail is discussing, saying mystery over cold case murders of Elvis impersonator and his beauty queen girlfriend who were shot dead in their mini Graceland mansion in Vegas in 93, but no arrests have been made 27 years on. So that's scary. All right. The murder of an Elvis impersonator and his beauty queen girlfriend who were shot dead in his mini Graceland Vegas home in 93 remain unsolved, despite family demanding answers. Dana Mackay and Mary Huffman were both shot dead in their Vegas mansion, which he called Mini Graceland in 93. They were found dead in the middle of the floor in the entryway to the home and had both been shot. Mackay was known as the world's first Elvis impersonator, and according to his friends, was among the best there had ever been. He looks like Elvis. He really does look like Elvis. He very much looks like that. So, I can understand why people would say that. The killings were presumed to be a robbery, even though nothing was stolen from the home, aside from a manila folder in which Mackay kept details from his business deals. What? Okay, it's a robbery, but the only thing they took was a manila folder with just details about. Come on. Come on. Now, Dana always kept a file with him that outlined all of his businesses, whether it was musical endeavors, palm tree business, his home, and personal information, like his finances. And that was the only notable thing that was missing. Somebody wanted that folder, and somebody wanted Dana. This is coming from an officer. He had just launched a side project planting palm trees in people's yards and at hotels with a friend. It was unclear what was done to investigate the crimes. Well, we're talking about Vegas in the 90s. That was before they cleaned it up quite a bit, before they made it more family friendly. So, there's always been the rumors about organized crime and been all that kind of stuff that goes on in Vegas. So it's pretty easy to kind of put 2 and 2 together about what could have potentially happened. Somebody wanted his business dealings. Now, why is that? Why would you care what an Elvis impersonator is up to? Maybe he ripped somebody off. Maybe they just needed the book. I mean, look, I'm just going to say it, man. My gut tells me the mob. Right off the bat, my gut's telling me the mob was somehow involved. But anyway, we continue. The Las Vegas Police Department insists it's an open case, but is refusing to answer questions on what leads they've pursued, if any, or where they are with the case now. Mackay's daughter, Misty Vargas, previously said she believes she knows who the killer is and thinks police do too, but they are being protected because they have quote-unquote connections. Mob. I said it. I said the mob. Totally said the mob. Now, she hasn't named the person publicly and now says she doesn't want to speak about the murders. That's interesting. Dad murdered, cold blood, financial documents stolen, 27 years. The cops won't do anything. The cops refuse to talk about it. She thinks she knows who it is. She says it's possible because that person has connections. And now she shuts up. It doesn't take a lot to follow this particular rabbit hole, to follow this theory. Doesn't take a lot. Now, she says here, I know exactly who did it. And I know the cops know exactly who did it. But he's allowed to get away with it because of his connections. This was from 2017 in an interview with NBC News. Now, Vargas is refusing to speak publicly about the case. She declined an interview and contacted Detective George Sherwood, the homicide detective with the Las Vegas Police Department, said in 2008 that he did not believe the pair was killed in a robbery either, saying, I don't believe it. Somebody was lying in wait for them. And then it's, as of now, it's still unclear if he's on the case. I think just by looking at it, you can tell that there's, quite frankly, come on. Only thing that was taken was a manila folder. I know we're smart people. We get it. Going on here says the pair were found murdered October 30th, 1993, after friends and family called police saying they hadn't heard from them in a couple days. When they were found, they appeared to have just returned home from grocery shopping. They had laundry detergent, T-bone steaks, bananas, and a box of Junior Mints lying next to them. And the steaks had gone off, leading police to believe they'd been dead for more than a day. Only one thing was missing, that manila folder, which they keep talking about the palm tree landscaping business. I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of what they're hinting at. And I think that's maybe what it was more in relation to. Because why would you F with an Elvis impersonator? If he was the first one, the business blew up for a while. And there's an entire movie called 3,000 Miles to Graceland about Elvis impersonators who pull off a heist, So it's not been an uncommon thing in pop culture. So it's probably more about the palm tree and landscaping business. Now, he had entered into the business after striking up a relationship with a dealer in California who sold him the trees at a discounted rate. He then sold them to wealthy Vegas residents, planting them in their homes and casinos. Mackay partnered with a friend who had money to back the business. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department is refusing to talk about the case now. When asked about information, the spokesperson says that the case is open and still being investigated, but that no one is willing to give an interview about it. The cold case department, which is investigating, refused to answer the questions about the case as well. So, I mean, just looking at this, come on. I think I think we all know what ultimately happened here. I think we can all kind of see where the thread is at. The daughter, she doesn't want to say anything about it. She'll go out there and she'll make the posturing statement. I know who it is, but he is allowed to get away with it. So we know that it's a guy. And the author of this article here clearly believes that the palm tree industry, palm tree business, had something to do with this, of which I don't necessarily disagree. I don't disagree unless it was a coalition of Elvis impersonators who were fed up with all of maybe all the Dana Mackay shit, and they were like, no, we're taking them out. And the reason why I bring that up, I was reading a thing today about alpha monkeys in their tribe that have to use intimidation to stay in power, and that the more submissive males will form a coalition to attack and oust the alpha male. So that could be a theory as well, where you've got the alpha male Elvis impersonator here, who maybe is doing bang up. He's cleaning up. No one else can book any gigs. Everybody wants Dana Mackay because he looks like the real deal. I mean, even come down here, look at this image down over here. This guy looked like the real deal. He played up Elvis real well. Maybe he was too good, and the other impersonators, they wanted to get rid of him, and they wanted to know who he booked with. So then maybe they would be able at that point to go out there and take some of those jobs. I don't know. That's a theory. A lot of what I offer here is a really terrible theory, but it's a theory nonetheless. So that is where I kind of stand with this whole story. It's crazy, but it's fascinating at the same time. And as always, I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. I always want to hear what you guys think about these sort of stories. What are your thoughts telling you? What's your gut telling you? And let me know down in the comment section. If you guys like the video, like the stream, like the content, definitely let me know. Leave me a like. I'll be back with a new episode on Monday for the regular show, where you can get it anywhere you get podcasts. And of course, facebook.com/groups/the Milk Carton or Instagram.com/Milk Carton Cast. My name is Matt Jarbo. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you again for watching, and peace out.